Good morning. I will be going over a couple of questions that have been sent by Math 110 students. And if you will look on the board or look at your TV screen, you will see one of them on the board. And that is 1.2. And it says number 2. I can pull it up, but I'm trying to find here we go. 1.2. It's 1.2. I'm trying to find it for y'all. 1.2. It's a video question. Number 2. It's also like number 23 in your book. Okay? So it says, watch the video, blah, 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 blah. Find f of negative 2. This is a function. And remember, when you're dealing with functions, it's just like f of x is equal to some expression. The way you did it back in pre-algebra was y equals some expression, right? Think of it as the old way of writing it and the new way of writing it. It's the same thing. So back in pre-algebra, when you wanted to find y, they usually gave you x, y, and they usually gave you negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. And let's say they give you something simple, x plus 4. Okay, these are the same thing. It's the same thing, just written differently. And when you wanted to find y at negative 2, you'd plug in negative 2 plus 4 and get 2. You'd plug in negative 1 plus 4 is 3. 0 plus 4 is 4. And then you see the pattern, 2, 3, 4. You know this is 5 and 6. Now that is the pre-algebra way of doing it. Okay, that's what you learned back in pre-algebra. Now you're just getting a little bit more fancy, and instead of saying y, you say f of x. And instead of putting it in a chart form, it's asking you f of negative 2. So f of negative 2 is just a fancy way of writing x is equal to 2, negative 2. And you plug and chug. So with our expression up there, and it's written in a yucky way, I write it the way it's supposed to be written. Negative 3x plus 2. That means that just like back in pre-algebra, negative 2 is what we're putting in. So that's negative 3 times negative 2 plus 2. That's a positive 6 plus 2 is 8. And that's how you get your answer on this question. I want to say one more thing, and it might help some of you in the homework, and that is the same question. What if they give you f of x is equal to 4? All right? Like I said, this is just like you learned back in pre-algebra, except it's written a different way. This is the same thing as saying y is equal to 4. So if y is equal to 4 and f of x is equal to 4, you're going to take that 4 and you're going to plug it in for that f of x there. Not the x, but the f of x, because f of x is the same way of writing y. So 4 is equal to negative 3x plus 2. And bring that 2 over, comes a negative 2. 2 is equal to negative 3x divided by negative 3. So x is equal to negative 2/3. I just wanted you, now of course you didn't have to do this on this question, but I wanted to put it out there because in the future, whether it's on my test or whether it's on a test or whether it's on a standardized test, you may see this. Okay? And then remember, don't spaz. All you have to do is just say, okay, we did that back in pre-algebra. That's the same thing as y is equal to 4. So that means I'm going to plug in, instead of x, I'm going to plug it in for that whole thing. And that's what we did. Okay? So that's a little bit of for your information for the future. Okay? Now, got another question. If I could pull it up. Let's see, there it is. And here's a question that was sent in, and it's on 2.3, number 73 online. And it says, let the domain of f of x be -3 to 4. So that means in your universe, the only numbers you have to deal with is -3 and 4. So on a graph, -4, -3, -2, -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to put a -5 and a -6 here. So on a graph, that means that the only numbers that exist to you are -4 to +3. That's the only numbers that you can use. So you could actually take your eraser and erase these, erase the numbers that are not in the domain. Okay, so I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to erase these numbers. And it's nice to think of it like this because you won't make a mistake. Those are the only numbers that you can use in your universe. Okay, in this universe set up by the domain. And remember, domain is what you put into a formula or an expression. Okay, and the range will be from 0 to 3. And the range will be from 0 to 3. So the range is the y values. Okay, so that means 0, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So that means our range is from 0 to 3. So our function, and I'm just going to draw this in a kind of a, I guess I can draw, I wonder if I have gray. I don't have gray. I got a real light line here, and we'll do it in a yellow so you hardly can see it. But that means that if I draw a graph, it's going to be in this area. Okay? Where the domain is -4 to 3, and the range is 0 to 3. So it's got to be in that window. Now, that's if they want you to draw in that window. But it says right here, okay, we just established all of that, so we can mark that out. Find the domain and range of f of -x. Okay, well let's just go over to the side here. Let's make up something. Okay, let's say we're given a function. You can make up any function you want to. F of x is equal to x plus 4. Okay? And we know that that function is going to look like, you know, a straight line that's going to go through at 4 right here, and it's going to have a 1-to-1 ratio, so it's going to look something like that. Now, if you plug in a -x, which that's what the question is asking, right here, then that's going to give you -x plus 4. Okay, if you plug in a -x right here, then that's going to give you -x plus 4, which would look like this. Okay? So you've got an arrow here and an arrow here, and you've got an arrow here and an arrow here. So what happened to anything is anything different. What is the domain of the black function, which is this function right here? The domain is negative infinity to positive infinity because it's got arrows and it keeps on going. Then what's the domain of this function? The same. Okay? The domain of that function will be the same. And that seems to be the answer. I really don't know what the answer is, but we'll check it. I have to go to I have no idea what the answer is. No, it's not going to let me answer it. Oh well. And the range would be the same also. Let's do something different. I don't like that example I picked. Let's try let's say f of x is equal to x squared plus 2. Okay, so that's going to be a parabola with a vertical shift of 2, 1, 2. So, let's go ahead and let me just go ahead and do this. Let's go, that'd be x squared. I'm just doing some stuff here just so I won't have to do it on a calculator. Be negative 2. No, 0 is equal to plus 2x plus 0x plus 2, and then minus 2 plus blank plus blank. I'm shooting out in the stars here. Just bear with me for a minute. Instead of graphing it by plotting or doing it on a calculator, I'm doing it by complete square, which you will be learning pretty soon. 0, 0, 0, and then x plus 0 quantity squared is equal to negative 2. That means it does not have x-intercepts. But if we did solve it, okay, so it looks something like this. All right, now let's put a negative in there, and let's see what happens. F of x, f of negative x is equal to parentheses squared, and plug in a negative x plus 2. And we get f of negative x is equal to x squared plus 2, because if you take negative x and you multiply it, you get x squared. So it doesn't really change the domain and range with this function either, because the domain and range is the same. So I think what they're trying to get you to see is that usually if you have a graph and in this function, this might help you. This is the area that we have to deal with. If you have a line that goes from here and it crosses 2 and it goes to right there, then the inverse of that
you have a work email
would be this. And you can see that the domain, do it in blue, the domain of the black line and the green and the red line are the same. And the range of the black line and the green line are the same. So I think that's what the question is trying to show you. Like I say, I don't see the answer, so I suppose that's the answer. I'm pretty sure that's the answer, but usually it shows you if it's wrong or not. I don't understand that. But anyway, I hope this helps. And if you need any more questions, send them on in and I'll post them.